be time for question and answer after that.
Right. Do you hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay, good.
It'd be better if they turned the sound off.
I think they're working on it. They're working on it.
All right.
Yes.
And you do your background again.
Sure, yeah. So I'm a political scientist. I'm a professor of political science at Seattle, and I am the director of the Technology Ethics Initiative there. Such an honor to be here. Thank you for being here, and thank you for staying. Let's give it up for the actors one more time, please. So I'd like to talk a little bit about the play, position it in history, and then maybe talk a little bit about our current moment. As you know, the play written by Čapek is from 1920, so perhaps. All right, yeah, So three developments really stand out. Perhaps one is less obvious and the other two are more straightforward. The one that's less obvious is that scientific management starts around this time. Maybe you've heard of like Taylorism, Fordism, these sort of scientific management techniques, many of them coming from the US. Basically, take over the capitalist world, and so this idea of increasing workers' efficiency, productivity is something that clearly resonates throughout the play, and it's something that seems to bother Čapek, right? So, I think a big part of his objection is that humans are reduced to, their productivity, their efficiency, the ease with which they provide convenience as workers. The second development is the Bolshevik Revolution. So it starts in 1917. And at the time that Čapek is writing the play, there are defeated revolutionary movements in Germany, in Austria, in Hungary, and so that I think clearly resonates with him too. And he's not a communist. I guess that much is obvious from the play too. And then the third thing, of course, is the end of World War I. And so there's a scene where the humans basically invent nationalism among robots, right? And so that's I think in many ways a direct allusion to what just happened during World War I. Now, this is my personal take, but I feel like Čapek is in many ways really confused, and that's a productive thing. So he doesn't really give answers in the play. There aren't too many answers. There are more questions. And that feels like, again, a productive movement, and I think maybe that's what makes the play relevant 106 years on. It's the fact that he doesn't really give a lot of answers. First of all, he doesn't seem to have a very high opinion of the humans. How would you characterize them, especially the men? They're greedy, they're selfish, they're short-sighted, they don't really think 2 steps ahead, and in some ways they bring on the destruction of humanity. But Čapek is also not on team robots either. I mean, he doesn't seem to have a very sort of positive opinion that somehow the robot takeover will either teach humans a lesson or will usher in a better period. And so in that way, I think he's not decided. And I think that also bleeds into another dimension. What exactly are the robots, right? So they are the result of a biological process, the protoplasm. That's what it's called. In that way, they're different from the mechanical, electronic robots of today. They still have human characteristics in the sense that they're made of flesh in some ways, but they're not humans. And what makes them non-human is the fact that they're reduced to their most elemental, sort of productive, sort of worker-like characteristics. And I think that's another area where Čapek really leaves us with a lot to imagine. Is this conflict a conflict between the humans and the machines, or is it a conflict between humans and other humans? Is it the human domination, the desire for human domination, other humans that's bringing us there, or are the robots something essentially altogether different? I think that's another area that Čapek really doesn't sort of give very clear answers. At the end of the day, what is the message, or what is this thing that remains? What is it? What does the last scene perhaps tell us? Would anybody else like to?
You know, it reminds me of a lot of the extinctions that we've heard. We've heard of. We've seen some of our, quote, extinctions, and all of a sudden we have these pairs of animals that are no longer extinct. Very, very, very hurt by humans, but it goes on. They found a way to get together, keep growing.
Yeah.
It
Anybody else?
seems like Chapek was very concerned with the human soul and questions of this. And so at the end, it seems as though the robots have developed souls and love, that can love each other. And this is, I think, I guess, the message to mankind, that if robots can do this, humans should be able to connect with their souls and feel love, and that this is something that might save humanity.
Yeah, I mean, those are the themes that come up. I mean, one thing definitely is love and beauty. And there are some references, right, to flowers, to sunrise, and so on, an ability to enjoy these moments on this earth. I think it's it's something that sort of he keeps bringing attention to. The other thing is, yeah, definitely there's a lot of question about the soul. I mean, Nonna, I think, is a very interesting character. We don't hear much from her, and she doesn't look to be the sort of the most sophisticated or educated, and it definitely has a religious angle. But in some ways, also she's a truth teller, right? So she's the one that sort of really lays bare, what the robots are doing or what the robots are, to the other humans in the play. And so I think, Chapek definitely is thinking about questions of spirituality, religion, and stuff like that, for sure. So, and then the other thing is, there's a lot of conversations about, reproduction. And one could take it sort of maybe literally, the ability to make babies is something that makes us sort of uniquely human. But maybe at a more metaphorical level, it seems like there's also a reference to bringing something genuinely new to the world that humans sort of reserve as their unique characteristic. And so all that attention to birth really reminded me of philosopher Hannah Arendt. Who was, I think, 14 when the play was out, but I don't know if she ever even read or watched the play, but she has this concept called natality. So again, literally it means the ability to give birth. But by that she means bringing something genuinely new to the world, and she sees that as a genuinely human capability. Which brings us, I guess, to today, to the world of AI. The R.U.R. side, it's pretty obvious. Today's considerations around artificial intelligence, and I guess I personally don't think that there's going to be a machine takeover anytime soon, maybe ever. But that's not the only problem, right? I think one could still interpret the moment we're going through as a period where humans are under a lot of pressure to be hyper efficient. There's a capitalist utopia version of this. That we won't have to work anymore, and then there's a dystopian version of this. Massive labor replacement, massive unemployment. Again, also humans losing touch with what it means to be human. Maybe you've heard that Cornish and Seattle U are merging right now, so the Cornish College of the Arts will be part of Seattle U. So I was at Cornish yesterday, and we had this exact conversation with artists. What does it mean to be an artist at a time when ChatGPT or any other chatbot can sort of spit out content that is the term AI slop came up a lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, functionally, it can regurgitate or it can replicate human art, and if it's good enough for the customer, that means jobs lost, right? So what do you all think?
Well, there's a parallel in agriculture. Monsanto developed corn that's GMO, and it doesn't
you know, and there's many agricultural products that you can't use to reproduce that, you know, they're not making seeds. So you have to buy your seeds from Monsanto, right? It's just very interesting that, you know, this is kind of was shown in the 1920 to be a possibility.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, in a way, you know, in nature, agriculture is meant to be slow, right? And so making that hyper efficient, you know, comes with again short-term benefits and long-term costs in terms of land use, and again also in terms of farmers' dependence on the companies that produce these modified seeds. There was another hand, yeah.
So I think for me one of the most interesting things in the last scene is when she mentions the dog, because that means humans are over, and without the formula, the robots are over in 20 years when they wear out. But there's still life. Evolution's going to get another shot. And I think that's the only hopeful message in the whole play.
It does seem that the robots have evolved because previously dogs were afraid of the robots. And in this case, she was able to hold puppies and get great pleasure.
And if I may, just with a little bit of insight on the last scene, at no point in the show do they say the robots cannot have children. They are biological. So we specifically removed that, any kind of, so that it is ambiguous, so that what Doman says in the first scene is there's no affection between them. So therefore, if affection and appreciation for beauty and connection happens, then the natural progression would be the biological progression. That's the idea.
Nice.
I
So,
thought there was nothing extraneous in the
Yeah.
robots. You know, so why do they have a reproductive system?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great question. Another of that ambiguity. It's like the evolution, and also there can be an argument to be made of the experiments that Dr. Hallmeyer was doing over the 10 years that he can change physiological correlates, therefore he's trying to make them more human for Helena. So
There's certainly a desire for
desire for
reproduction.
more human, yeah. That's the idea, but it's very ambiguous.
One other thing I noticed, there was a lot of, like, they introduced very early on, like, the idea that there are different, like, grades of robot. But they don't really, and, like, that are in a sense specialized for different tasks, but only in the sense of, like, how much effort is made into making them intelligent and human-like. But they don't really, there doesn't really seem to be this, like, a solid concept of specializing the robot for different roles. And like for example, when they like changed like the type of robot, they would like experiment with individual things. They just rolled out into all of the types of robots using this new method. That was an interesting, like, where it like seemed like it would be introduced early on, but then there was maybe because there were only 4 people working there.
For those who might not have ever seen Star Trek: The Next Generation, there's actually an interesting episode that is brought up in the play about having a soul. And in this particular one, Data, who is an android, is being told that he has to go to a particular laboratory where the scientist there is going to take him apart to figure out more about him, because the scientist who actually made him is now dead. And there's an argument about whether Data has a right to say no. And in the end, they have a JAG there, basically a lawyer or a judge actually, who is making the decision about whether Data has the right to have that decision. And she, in the end, she basically says, I don't know whether Data has sentience or consciousness or the whole thing or not, but I think that we should give him the opportunity to discover whether he has a soul or not. And that we shouldn't tell him he can't. Now, of course, Data is very human-like. I don't know whether people could actually look at, say, for example, a robot that goes and takes a look at bombs to see if, items that look like bombs that, to find out if they actually are, and be concerned about their welfare. But I would say that Star Trek has done a couple of those kinds of things, episodes, that are very interesting as far as like the soul of a robot, the soul of an android.
She lives with a science fiction writer. So I actually have a lot of friends who are like also published writers. Several of them won Hugos and Nebulas, and they're all looking at each other like, what do we write about now? Right? Because they're like, they have no idea what the future is going to look like. They can't make any predictions. But I mean, R.U.R. doesn't even go close to Wittgenstein's whole thing about automatic sweethearts and all that question of ensoulment. But we've always been, the whole conversation is about robots in science fiction has always been their metaphors for different parts of humans. But the other thing is that humans are messy. We evolved. We get distracted, which means our thoughts aren't even our thoughts. They think themselves, and sometimes they intrude, and then we get distracted, we do something else from what we intend. Why would we give that to a machine? Why would we give a machine? Every robot story is a disaster. Because either you're designing your replacement, or you've got something else. And that's kind of the question. Like if you give them, like Hal in 2001 was frustrated. Why would they give him frustration? Why would they give him the emotions we have that make us angry and frustrated and lash out? And that's the question that R.U.R. doesn't go close, which is why I think you're right. Effect's a little confused.
Well, if I may, I would suggest that the answer to that question always seems to be because we can, or at least the scientific approach to here's a challenge, can we achieve this? Maybe not thinking far enough ahead to think of the consequences.
Yes, but if you've got something that's
should we?
Yes, but if you've got something that thinks faster than you, has a larger collection of database than you, is stronger than you, is faster than you, why would you build a replacement?
Well, then this
It
is
just has the ability to access the information faster. It's not faster, because we give them all the information that they have comes from us. And that is one of the problems too. That I'm currently seeing today, you can give AI information. Doesn't mean that you get the right information back to you.
That's something
There's a hand, and then
that's something I was just
I'll wrap
about
up
to mention
afterwards.
is in conjunction with both of these things. Are we teaching AI these emotions, or is it learning it on its own from us?
We are not teaching them anything. They are.
Yeah, and so it's learning, and we have discovered that AI
It's not.
is on its own learning to lie to us.
Yeah.
No, it's actually not. It's not. It's not learning to lie to you. It is statistically looking up the answer you want. That's
correct.
There is that, but there's actually been some findings where it's using misleading properties against people to get them to answer certain ways as well.
That's because statistically they have looked at the bundle of knowledge they have and figured out.
found that we spend a lot of time lying to
Yes,
each other.
that's basically it.
All in all, I think what I really liked about the play, and I think at least to me, it became a lot more apparent watching the play rather than reading it, is that it makes us ask exactly these questions. What is it that makes us human? So I think generally, good science fiction definitely does that. It asks us, or makes us ask this question: what is it that is uniquely human about our existence in the universe? And it seems like, early on in the play, one of the answers is it's exactly those things that are not particularly efficient, not particularly productive, not particularly, the extras, right? The stuff that could be offloaded is what makes us perhaps so interesting, so unique. And I think we will keep on asking this question: what does creativity mean? What does imagination mean? As we go further with this journey that we have with artificial intelligence now. So I would like to thank the actors again for making us realize
Yeah, it is a little weird, 'cause it's like, this is